And we are back once again with the franchise check coming to you out of Cologne, Germany. We're at the FIBO. We're doing a deep dive on all 16 franchises of the European League of Football for the 2025 season. And I am here once again with Matt Bressington, our resident expert on all things ELF. We're in the Western Division right now, and we're talking about the Frankfurt Galaxy, the first ever ELF champion. Now, Matt, some might argue that's maybe not such a legitimate championship a few years ago. We'll talk about that. Let's get into, first of all, the history of this franchise.
Well, like you said, 2021, they come out into the European League of Football. They get the first championship. Maybe it's the lightest ring of all time, but you know we've only had a few, so we'll maybe reserve judgment. Some star players though, Anthony Mahonwu being on there, you know, Sullivan as well, Jared Allman with his breakout rookie campaign. Then they go in 2022, a little bit of a fall off, but still a very successful team with 4-8. You know, it's not a bad 8-4, not a bad record. Then the 2023 season, I feel, is not representative of how it went.
You don't like that 10-2. You don't think that 10-2 is an accurate portrayal of that team?
No, because 10-2, you think, oh, that's a legit contender for the top. No.
I do think that.
They were never going to beat Ryan. They played them 3 times. They got blown out every single time. Like, that was their 2 losses on the regular season. They lose them in the playoffs. And then 2024, it all comes crumbling down. They went 4-8, not a good year for them at all.
Talk about a fall off. I mean, this is one of the most disappointing seasons, I think, in the entire ELF last year, because this is obviously a franchise that has a rich history dating back to NFL Europe. First ever champion here in the ELF, and just 4-8 last year. Disappointing. Got rid of their quarterback, made a quarterback switch in the middle of the season, brought on Matthew McKay. Well, with that being said, let's talk about a little bit of this season then. Some of the departures of the players that they had last year, some guys that they were able to extend and retain, and then their new additions.
So let's start with the departures. My maybe most heartbreaking loss so far of the season, Markel Castle.
Devastating.
I know, right? Triple Crown winner in Munich, goes to Frankfurt to join up with Luke Zaradka. Didn't work out maybe as much as he would have hoped. Still an elite receiver. Like, he's such an explosive athlete, can take the ball anywhere he wants. He can jump up and take the ball out of someone's hands as well. Like, he's a right threat, he's a deep threat, anything you need him to be. Hugo de Heirold as well, the Swedish inside linebacker, all-star for them in the season just passed. I do feel like his stats would benefit with a bad team. You know, when you're a middle linebacker and your defensive line isn't very good, you kind of have, someone has to get the numbers eventually. But he's went on to the Nordic Storms, has 2 big losses and 2 all-star level players that have now left the team.
Yeah, that's a bit just when I can speak to that that linebacker stat padding. It's very gameable, I would say. You can find yourself just jumping on some piles there and adding up your tackle stats. All right, then on to the positives, the extensions, the guys that they were able to retain. And I think the big one, of course, is Matthew McKay, quarterback that came in during the middle of the season last year to an offense that wasn't necessarily built for him, right? And now, maybe this year, it looks more like a Matthew McKay offense. What do you think?
Absolutely agree. I think this is built a lot more for him. We thought coming in he wouldn't be that mobile. Turns out really, really mobile. A lot more athletic than we thought he was going to be. And he showed out really, really well. The big thing, he had a big injury. Like, when he came out, it was a serious injury. Can he rebound from that? How is rehab going? Is he going to be able to keep that mobility with this leg injury? Is a big question going forward with Matthew McKay. The team have put a lot of faith in him, because we often see teams just give up on a quarterback really easily. It's refreshing to see a team stick with a player even through an injury like that. And then you have Kevin Kaya, one of the best French receivers there are. Spent a couple years out in Canada as well. Lengthy sideline threat, really good option for McKay to have. Speaking of which, you have Steven Nilsson as well. Probably the best European in the league. CFL guy, but he started. He came back, went to the Raiders, and has bounced around, has ended up with the Galaxy in another season for them. He's just so dominant. You ask any offensive lineman in the league, who's the best? They always say Steven Nilsson.
And then, how about some of their new additions? I mean, talking about the offensive line, your fellow United Kingdom Brit, Keanu Ebanks, coming to the Frankfurt Galaxy.
I love Keanu. I've met him in person a ton of times. He's one of my favorite people in the league. But to have him and Steven, arguably 2 top 5 offensive tackles in Europe, is incredible. Both of them come with CFL experience. Both of them are big bruisers, but also athletic. And I think to give McKay that on both sides is going to open up a ton of opportunities. And I really like their DB duo, so I want to highlight that as well. Channing Strebling could be the best player in the league, full stop. He is incredible. USFL All-Star, 7 picks in 7 games when he was in Philadelphia Stars. Incredibly impressive. And they have Shaheem Battle, great name first and foremost.
First team all name for the league.
Absolutely, absolutely. Comes super aggressive as well, plays DB physically, but he's also quick and like aggressive. I think he's going to be a really good combination of defensive backs that's going to create a lot of turnovers.
So they've loaded up on talent, they've brought back their quarterback, they've created an offense that should fit to him and his skills and his ability. Hopefully he's fully recovered from the injury and that they're able to build on some of that the momentum that they were able to capitalize a little bit of last year. Then let's take a look at the 2025 schedule. The games they're going to be playing, and we're going to make our predictions on how these are going to go. I'll take the front half, you take the back half.
Yep.
And starting off with the Stuttgart Surge, that's a tough one to start off on. Surge have reloaded, they're looking great. This is going to be a loss for Frankfurt, unfortunately. However, the following week, they're going to have I'm going to call this a gritty win against the Madrid Bravos. Madrid Bravos are not going to be a team to roll over at all. I think they're going to be pretty solid. But I think Frankfurt get that W. Paris is just too strong, man. That division, and they're too strong. That's going to be an L against Paris. Well, Cologne, we talked about Cologne.
Yeah.
This is going to be a W.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And then, hear me out, Nordic Storm. I've got them beating the Nordic Storm. If you remember, I talked about, we did the Nordic Storm a little earlier, and I had the Nordic Storm getting an L here. I think this was a surprising kind of low probability prediction, but I could really see it happening a couple games into the Nordic season, and Frankfurt maybe gathering their footing a little bit. After this big win against Nordic Storm, they're going to drop one to Paris, and it will be 3-3 midway through the season. What do you got for the back half?
Okay, I'm glad you said they lost against Paris, because that momentum is going to swing, and they're also going to lose against the Prague Lions.
Oh my goodness!
Maybe I'm a little bit biased. You know, I did a little bit of work with Prague in the offseason.
Hold on, everyone. I get a lot of flack for my surge bias. I would like everyone to take the time to recognize Matt's Prague bias, which we can appreciate. Okay, continue.
Just a little bit. It's going to be a gritty performance.
Gritty, very
gritty. It's going to be raining. It's going to be a 10-6 kind of game.
Now he knows the weather.
There we go. Got the script and all. They got a bye week following that. They're going to come in. They're going to lose again against the Surge. Bit of a mid-season. Hey, well, I see I made it up to you there. Bit of a mid-season skid. They're going to right it a little bit. They're going to beat Prague this time. And they're going to split the games. So I wasn't too biased. They're also going to split against the Storm.
Okay.
Going to lose this one as well. It's a hard game. We talked about Cologne. Obviously, it's going to be a win there for them. I mean, it's Cologne. Do I need to say any more? I don't think so. And then we have Madrid finishing off. You know, they're 5-6, and they're going to fall short of 500. They're going to take the L here in Madrid and finish 5-7.
This is not what the Frankfurt Galaxy have in mind, man. Trying to return to the former glory here. This is tough. I mean, in these divisions, it's so competitive. And you look at that division, though, you got Paris, you got Stuttgart, you got Cologne. Like a team like Frankfurt that I think has some really nice pieces and could actually be pretty good. I just think it's going to be very tough for there to be 3 legitimate competitors or contenders in a division. We might see it in one, but I think for the most part, you're maybe going to have 2 teams that are kind of in the conversation. And in this situation, high chance that Frankfurt gets left by the wayside. However, what would have to happen, Matt, for this to not result in a 5-7 season? What is their path to proving us wrong and going 8-4?
See, the craziest thing is, even though they're 5-7, this is one of the most talented teams in the league. It just speaks to what we were saying earlier about there is a legit 8 teams that can win a year left this season, and unfortunately only one of them can. For them to win, this offense needs to be around McKay. McKay needs to stay healthy. I know I pretty much said that about every quarterback needs to stay healthy, but for him it's a little bit different. He's coming off a big injury. Platzkammer, again, needs to stay healthy. Gerald Alman, again, needs to stay healthy. That's 3 of their playmakers on offense. Kevin Kaya, he should be performing. Terry Wright, we haven't talked about him much, but he's another speedy receiver. He needs to stay healthy and all that. It's such a difficult team to grade because they have the highs of Channing Strebling and potentially being the best DB, with the best offensive tackle, with an IPP running back. But it's just something that doesn't feel right. I'm not sure if it's the Germans that just aren't that high level, like a Ryan or a Stuttgart. But I'm looking at the roster, and there's just something about it that I just can't quite put my finger on. I think it might be the depth of German talent.
It's a little bit indescribable, but it is. There's a vibe around it. I'm not sure. Maybe they'll prove us wrong, make us look silly here. But right now at this franchise check at the FIBO, you got the Frankfurt Galaxy going 5-7 in the regular season. There you have it.